Jodi Thomas was born, raised, and still lives in Amarillo. She was teaching at Amarillo High School when her first romance novel was published. Beneath the Texas Sky was a hit, and Jodi never looked back. She has written more than 50 novels over the past 30-plus years. Jodi has won the Romance Writers of America's prestigious Rita Award 5 times and has been inducted into the RWA's Hall of Fame. She has made both the New York Times and USA Today bestseller lists, and recently she sat down for an interview with Austin Liddy Limit's Larry Brill.
Jodi Thomas, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
I want to start with the fact that you've been publishing books for 32 years now. Tell us a little bit about your journey as a writer.
I actually started writing because I had 2 little kids, and I wanted to, maybe if I wrote 4 books, I could put them through college. And after 3 books, I quit teaching, and I knew I could put them through college.
So give us a sense of your journey, your writer's journey over the past 30 years.
The hardest part was getting started. It was about 5 years whenever I took every class I could. I practiced, I read every book. At one point I checked out the entire section on how to write at the library, and I did everything I could, joined a critique group, everything.
Now this was in Amarillo.
And I wasn't getting anywhere. And then I heard about a contest. We have a little writers club in Amarillo, and I thought, this will be great. It's a local club. I've been writing for 5 years. I'm going to take them all. I'm going to take all the awards. And I even wrote a poem so I could enter them all. And I told all my friends, I'm going to win one of these. They're going to say, stay up at the podium. We're going to give you another one. And when I went to the luncheon, I sat in the back of the room with a bus driver that had driven some people in. And I told him, I'm going to win some of these. I mean, they're like 8, 10 entries in a lot of them. The first one came up, and and they had first, second, third place, 3 honorable mentions, 7 entries, and they didn't call my name.
Oh no!
I listened to every category, and they never called my name. And so when I left, I thought, I made a mistake. I have worked harder than I've ever worked on any degree or anything, and I'm nowhere. I can't even win 3rd place in a local contest. So I was driving home crying, and I didn't want to cry in front of my kids. So I said, I'm going to pull in the cemetery and walk around. And I pulled over to the cemetery and started walking around, and I saw this iron bowl of fruit, and underneath it was a square, a concrete square. And I sat down on the concrete, and I was thinking, I made a mistake. This is the one thing I've wanted to do in my life really bad, and it's not going to happen. And I looked down, and I saw the word through. And I thought, these people are crazy. Why would they put through in a cemetery on a bowl of fruit? And I went around to all 4 sides, and one word on each side. Triumph comes through perseverance. And I stood up and I said, that's it, God. I am going to write till they pull the pen from my hand and put it in the casket. I am never stopping.
Pull the pen from my cold, dead hand.
Exactly. And I just decided that this was meant to do. And I went home and with a big magic marker wrote, triumph comes through perseverance. I misspelled perseverance, but I didn't bother to change it.
That's what editors are for.
That's right. 3 months later, I went to a writing conference, and I met a real editor, and I told her I was writing about the history of Texas, and she said, how fast can you get it to me? And I thought, she just sang that, and 3 months later, she made me an offer. So it was, from then on, I sold 4 other books in 15 months, and then I have never not sold a book that I presented.
How often do you publish a book?
For a while, for the first 10 years, I did 1 a year, but now I do 2 a year, and sometimes 2 and an anthology.
That's a lot of words.
It's a lot of words. I have to use some of them twice. because it's hard.
So was the moment in the cemetery, was that the lowest point, you would say, in your career?
I think the lowest point was at book 5. My editor called me and it didn't do well. You know, it was a story about World War I pilots, and I don't think the market was there. It had a bad cover. There were a lot of reasons. And she said, "We think you peaked, and that we're not buying any more books." But we have one, you know, we've already signed the contract for the next one, so we'll let you do that, but then we think your career's over. And the next one won a Rita, the highest award. So I was back in the game. I laugh and say, I have been dead in this business so many times I've worn out the funeral dress. Because every once in a while somebody tells you, oh yeah, it's over. Okay.
What would you say is the high point of these 30 years?
Oh, that's a wonderful thing. There's a lot of low points. You've got to learn to handle them, but the high points are high. And I will never forget when I was up for my 3rd Rita, and I really thought I might have a chance. The other 2 I won and didn't think I had a chance.
Rita being the Romance Writers.
Romance Writers, the best book of the year. And I won it, and I had a speech, and I was very calm. And then when I turned to leave the stage, Nora Roberts, Danielle Steele, all these legends in it were moving toward the stage, and I couldn't figure out why. And they stood behind me, and they inducted me into the Hall of Fame. And I can give you my speech. It was wah, 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 wah. I cried the whole time. It was really sad. But that was a big, for me, it was big. And you know, I think the awards are great, but I think that when you finish a book and you actually send it in, I always just celebrate for a day. If you've ever seen Romancing the Stone, the first thing she does is feed the cat. So I go around trying to feed the cat, and I don't have a cat. But I feel like that's what you ought to do when you finish a book, because that's what she did.
All right, so this is the point in our interview where we do the Austin Liti Lemons lightning round. 10 questions, simple answers. The lightning round. Our first question. What's your favorite word?
I think peace. I love the word peace.
What's your least favorite word?
Galoshes. I hate that word and I can never spell it. Galoshes is an ugly word.
I'm not sure anyone can spell that. What turns you on?
I love people that are kind, and I love people that love people, and I'm like you, when I see that kind of person, I'm drawn to them and I want to see their story. And a lot of times, they don't have the perfect life, but that ability to be kind just shines in them, and I love meeting those.
What turns you off?
People who use profanity anywhere, but particularly in books, when it's not necessary. Now, if you cut your finger off and yell it out, that's acceptable. But if you're just walking down the street, it's not quite. I see it as kind of an insult to anyone who hears it, because they may not hear that word every day like you do or something.
What's your idea of happiness?
Happiness, I am a very happy person. I always look at the bright side. My mother, when she checked groceries for a living, she had 4 kids, she had a husband that was blind, but she thought she was the luckiest person in the world. And I think that kind of thing makes happiness. She was always happy.
Who is your favorite author?
I don't have one. What happens is I could name 100 that I love, but then I'll judge a contest and I found a new one. So it's almost, I'm waiting for that next one, because I do. What I do is when I find one, I go back and read their backlist, and that's fun.
If you could be any character from a well-known novel throughout the course of time, who would you want to be?
You know, several came to mind, but I think Harry Potter. And I think I'm a little crazy, and I think I'd fit right in. I'd like to have powers to do stuff. So yeah, when I was young, I thought I'd write that kind of book, but it didn't come out right.
If you weren't an author, what profession would you want to attempt other than your own?
You know, I dream of building houses. I dream of walking through houses. I dream of finding hidden places in houses. So I think I would be a real estate agent. But I think building a book is like building a house. You know, everybody comes in the living room first, and then as the book moves on, they move up to finally find the secret places. And I think it'd be fun. Sometimes I just go look at houses.
What profession would you least want to do?
That's hard to say. I've had several jobs, and I've always liked them. I found them interesting. I found the people interesting. So I could probably never work cattle. I've seen it a lot, and I don't think I could do that.
Our final question. If heaven exists, what would you like God to say to you when you get to the check-in desk?
I do believe heaven exists, and if he says to me, you want to go back? I'm going through the rounding door and heading back. I would love to do it all again.
Jodi Thomas, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.